following footage revealing a 15-year-old mass killer has never been seen before.
We discovered his dad on the couch. His face was really pale.
You were a stone cold killer. 4 people have been murdered tonight.
They're dead.
You cannot lie to me. I will drag you down with this.
What happened?
You will go to jail for the rest of your life. I'm looking in the eyes of a stone cold killer. There's no remorse.
When Nick Browning and 3 of his friends arrived at his home, they immediately knew something was very wrong. At first glance, the house appeared to have been burglarized, but when they discovered Nick's entire family murdered, no one could have ever expected the chilling and twisted truth behind their deaths. The 4 15-year-olds were Ryan Fingles, Taylor Tewksbury, Alexander Smith, and Nicholas Nick Browning. The boys spent time at the mall on the Saturday afternoon of February 2nd, 2008, before they were dropped off at Nick's house in an affluent Baltimore suburb of Cockeysville, Maryland. Immediately, the boys noticed that a door to the Brownings' house had been left unlocked, and it looked as though there may have been a robbery. When they entered the home, the boys found Nick's father, John Browning, a well-respected attorney, shot to death where he had been asleep on the sofa. They soon discovered that Nick's mother, Tamara, and his 2 younger brothers, 13-year-old Gregory and 11-year-old Benjamin, had all been shot as they were sleeping in their bedrooms. After the police were called, the 4 traumatized boys were brought into the police station to give their statements about the haunting discovery. They were separated into different interrogation rooms while they wait for a detective to come and question them. Nick's 3 friends are important witnesses as they were there when the Browning family was found dead, and were also with Nick for most of the evening and the majority of the following day. The following never-before-seen footage has been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed attorney and former criminal prosecutor, a licensed clinical psychologist, and an individual with a Master of Science in Clinical Psychology.
My name's Dave. What's your name, Ryan?
The interrogator enters the room and introduces himself to Ryan Fingles as Dave instead of officer or detective. This is done to put Ryan at ease and make the detective seem less intimidating or authoritative.
Yes, go ahead. Good.
Thanks for coming down here with us. It's kind of been a long day. I'll just need some basic information from you to Ryan, right?
Yes.
What's your name, Ryan?
Melody?
Yes.
Andrew?
What's your last name?
Fingles, F-I-N-G-L-E-S.
The detective is gathering basic background information from Ryan and is getting him comfortable talking. Ryan is in 10th grade, which makes him a minor, so the detective will have to be careful to make sure he understands his rights. Another detective uses a similar approach when he enters the room of 15-year-old Taylor Tewksbury. In comparison, Taylor seems very nervous, which is to be expected when being interrogated.
I'm a homicide. Some bad stuff has happened tonight. I need you to be 100% honest with me. I want you to tell me what's been going on and explain. Who are you with out there?
I was with Ryan, Alex, and Nick. We were at Ryan's house in the morning because we slept over there last night.
What time did you guys get over there last night?
I went over there right after school.
You got there after school about what time?
Well, I went home first, and then my mom drove me over there around like 2:50 maybe.
2:15 or
2:50.
2:50.
Yeah.
He's giving a lot of details about the evening and comes across as truthful. Taylor is also facing the detective, suggesting that he is engaged in the interview.
Okay, what did you guys do there last night?
Mostly, we were playing cross-out from and we played video games, basically. Watched a movie.
What movie did you watch?
We were watching, what's it called? I remember we're watching Robin Big at first, and then we were looking through the movies. Accepted. We're watching Accepted. We started that around like 10:15 or something.
Around 10:15 last night?
Yeah. I don't know, I fell asleep like halfway through it.
So,
And then
where were you guys in? What part of the house were you guys in?
in like the living room, the main room, family room, I guess you want to call it.
Where's your parents at?
Yes.
The detective begins the interview with Alexander Smith by being very upfront and lets him know he isn't in trouble.
What's your last name? Smith. Oh, that's right. I just talked to Dad. Your dad's here. You guys leave. I think he's gonna take care of the other boys, get them to where they gotta go. Okay. Any other nickname other than Alex?
No.
Street name or anything like that?
No.
You play lacrosse for Dylan?
Yes.
Again, he gets basic information from him and builds some rapport with Alex by asking about things that are non-threatening. Meanwhile, Nick Browning eventually puts his head down and appears to fall asleep.
Hey, Nick. I'm sorry it takes so long.
The detective enters and immediately apologizes to Nick for the long wait. He does this to come across as friendly and to start building rapport. He also wants to let Nick know they are actively investigating and speaking to other people, so he might be less inclined to lie.
No offense to you. Everybody that comes in here, I gotta read their rights too, so I gotta read their rights.
The detective is trying to put Nick at ease by saying that he has to read the Miranda rights to everyone. By making this seem like a very ordinary thing, he's less likely to start off being defensive. The detective reads Nick his Miranda rights and has him read them back to him to make sure he is literate and is listening. Because Nick has no priors and is a minor, the detective needs to take extra care in making sure he understands his rights before he begins interrogating him.
Can we talk a little bit? Can you sign that here for me?
Signature.
I'll get over it, trust me.
The detective intentionally speaks very casually and then immediately jumps into the interrogation. He does this so Nick doesn't have an opportunity to hesitate and request an attorney. The detective also makes the conversation seem casual, so he isn't aware of the seriousness of speaking to the police without legal representation. Notice how close the detective sits to Nick versus how he was seated with the other boys. He's intentionally invading his personal space to make him focus on him. It's more difficult to lie to someone who's inches from your face, looking directly at you.
Doctor, so tell me what's happened the last day and a half. What was going on last night? I guess you can start tomorrow. Yesterday afternoon.
Came home from school, 2:45, and thought about going to the basketball game, but then ended up
At Delaney or?
Delaney basketball game. Thought about going there.
Okay.
Then we decided to skip that for a bunch of reasons. Then we went to Ryan Fingal's house.
Okay.
Then we were just hanging out there, went outside for a little bit, you know.
What were you doing at Ryan's house?
Yeah, Ryan.
What were you doing there?
The police officer begins a very basic line of questioning, allowing him to describe the events of the past 2 days on his own. Getting Nick to tell his own version of what happened will help the police attempt to poke holes in his story.
Played some Xbox a little bit.
I don't know. I know the address. Where does Ryan live?
Do you know Springdale?
Yeah, I know where the pool and stuff is.
Right, it's in that neighborhood.
Okay.
While one detective is handling Nick's questioning, another is simultaneously questioning Ryan. We pick up where they're discussing the boys' activities the previous night, when they all stayed over at Ryan's house and start to discuss where exactly Nick was during that night.
You guys spent the entire evening together yesterday? Yes, you were actually leave the house at all last night?
We'll just walk around the neighborhood.
Okay. How far do you live from where he lives?
Half a mile.
Half a mile. Did you guys go over there?
No.
Did he?
Yes.
What time did he go over there?
Like 12:30.
Last night?
Yes.
What did he go home for?
Truthfully, we were going to just take his car out.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Nick Browning. Just take his car out for a little drive.
Okay. Did you guys do that?
No.
All of you were there?
Yes. Nick said that he was there. When he got there, the lights were still on.
Okay.
And so he just went in the car, and he said he fell asleep.
It seems Nick planned to sneak home to get the car before driving back to take the boys for a ride, but this never happened. Although it isn't known for sure, it can be assumed that Nick would have to sneak home to get the car due to his age. At only 15 years old, he would be unable to get his driver's license. Nick's story that he fell asleep in the car doesn't sound very feasible. If he went home to get his car, which he wasn't allowed to do, adrenaline would have likely kept him up. It's also suspicious that the lights in the house allegedly were on that late at night. If there had been an intruder, they likely wouldn't have turned the lights on. As well, Nick probably would have seen or heard something if his family was killed around the same time he was sitting in the driveway. His story isn't logical.
And like 3 hours later, or however many hours later, Alex called him and see where he was. He's like, oh, I fell asleep in the car, and then he came back to my house.
After Ryan explains that Nick temporarily left the sleepover for a few hours, we return to Taylor's interrogation room. The detective is getting Taylor's account of the previous night's events.
So basically after that, when I woke up, I started watching this
So
TV.
you fell asleep.
Yeah, I woke back up around like 12 and went to bed. went to like an actual bed. I was like on the couch.
Okay.
I mean on a chair.
Woke up around midnight.
Yeah.
What bed did you go to?
I went into his brother's room, and then
Was Joe there?
Joe, no, he wasn't there.
Where was he?
He was at a friend's house.
Okay. So you went in Joe's room?
Yeah, and then the parents had friends over, and they weren't gonna sleep there. Then they did.
The friends of the Bengals did?
Yeah, they're friends. So they came into Joe's room to sleep. So I had to get up, went down to the basement, and slept on the futon.
What time was that? Or do you remember?
I don't know what time it was. It was probably like 1:30.
When you woke up to go to Joe's room, where were all the other boys?
It was sitting on the couch next to me and up in his room.
Okay. Was Nick there?
Yeah.
You sure? It's so important.
No, I don't think he was. Actually, yeah, no.
He wasn't there.
He went out. Okay.
The detective can tell Taylor is hesitant about speaking, so he reminds him that he needs to tell the truth.
I don't
Taylor,
remember.
I'll tell you now.
Yes,
This is a murder case.
yes,
You're 15 years old.
yes.
You cannot lie to me
Alright,
because you will go to jail for the rest of your life.
okay.
Saying that he'll go to jail for the rest of his life is rather aggressive, as Taylor is only 15 and it's also not actually true. The detective needs him to be truthful, but he oversteps a little here. Police are allowed to lie to suspects, but this seemed unnecessary at this point, given Taylor's age.
Nick was not in there.
No.
Do you know that he left?
What?
Do you know that he left?
I mean, yeah, I guess because I didn't see him there. I didn't know he was leaving.
Okay.
To tell the truth, I really don't know the exact times.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I didn't have like a clock I was looking at.
No, man.
Taylor is displaying some behaviors that indicate he's feeling anxious, such as holding his hands in front of his torso and frequently touching his face. However, given his young age and the fact that his friend's family was just found murdered, it would be understandable that he's feeling anxious. Although some dismiss body language analysis as pseudoscience, it's used by the FBI and CIA during interrogations. When the CIA is interrogating an individual, they look for clusters of 3 or more indicators that occur in either quick succession or all at once. These indicators can be signs of discomfort or uncertainty in what the individual is stating, rather than indicators of deception. It's extremely important to note that you cannot detect deception through body language analysis alone. We pick up where the detective is explaining to Alex the utter magnitude of the horrific crimes.
If you haven't figured out by now, something really serious has happened to the Browning family. You're 15 years old. I need you to be 100% honest. The other boys have been honest with me. You can't take up and lie. Okay?
Yes.
By telling him that the other boys have been honest with me, the detective is trying to ensure that Alex is telling the truth. If he thinks that the other boys told the detective everything, he'll feel pressured to do the same. If he denies something, but the other boys say it happened, he might be afraid he'll get in trouble with the police.
I'm gonna ask you to take me through the last 28, 29 hours. What's been going on? So you guys, from what I know, all spent the night over at Bengals, right?
Yes.
What did you guys do from there?
Alex begins to give his account of the previous night, which seems to be consistent with Taylor's account.
Well, we slept there, and in the morning,
You skipping over a lot, okay? But I want you to take it slow and not skip out stuff, okay?
alright,
So last night you guys went there.
yeah.
What did you guys do while you were there?
We ordered food from Georgia's and watched Smoking Aces and Accepted, and ran around outside a little bit. And we basically just all went to sleep
Okay. Where were you guys watching TV and stuff? What room of the house?
in the living room.
Were Ryan's parents room?
Yes,
Was there other people there too?
yes,
Ryan's parents?
friends.
Gotcha. Who else was in the living room with you?
Nick.
Who else? Did Ryan go up to his room?
Yeah, Ryan went up to his room, and Ted went up to Ryan's brother's room, and then moved downstairs.
Okay. Why did Taylor have to go upstairs?
Because Ryan's parents' friends were sleeping in his room.
Okay.
Back in Taylor's interrogation room, it seems he's wrestling with himself. It's as if he has something he wants to get off his chest. The detective is expressing just how crucial it is that he disclose the full story of what happened through the previous night and into the morning. where everything took a terrible turn for the worst.
Are you sure you've been 100%? Is there something you should be telling me? Because I'm not telling you how important this is right now. There's something you think?
Actually,
There's something.
he told me that he was going to go out, but he didn't tell me where he was going.
Okay. I appreciate this. I mean, this is.
He said he was going to go out. I mean, I don't know. I was kind of said he was going to go out, and then.
What do you tell you about that?
As he talks, Taylor picks up the water bottle. Picking up the water bottle suddenly has to have some meaning because this happened precisely when he was telling the detective about Nick having gone out. Brian does the same thing. He seemed uncomfortable. Based on behavioral observations, Taylor and Brian appear to know something or have strong suspicions that Nick was up to no good when he left the house.
He was going out to do what?
I don't know.
He told you something. Well,
I don't know. He said he was going to go and.
Taylor is looking down and avoiding eye contact, showing that he's clearly nervous, revealing what Nick told him he was going to do.
He said he was going to, since he got
Notice that the detective leans in very close to him when he starts stuttering and hesitating. The detective is mirroring the boy's body language, which is a nonverbal rapport building technique used to make them feel more comfortable and friendly with the detective. Typically, mirroring behavior is something you can observe between people who are close and comfortable with each other. Although we can't know for sure, and he can be displaying this behavior subconsciously, as the majority of people do, the detective seems to be using this technique quite intentionally throughout the interrogations in an attempt to make the group feel more at ease, friendly, and willing to share any information they may have. Point out any mirroring behavior you catch throughout the interrogations with timestamps in the comments.
He said he might go and take the car, but he ended up.
take his parents' car.
It was his car.
Taylor continues speaking but becomes more obviously uncomfortable. He stutters slightly and starts to cover his face with his hands while speaking. He fidgets and frequently touches his face, which is a self-soothing behavior. He's likely feeling very anxious, possibly still feeling torn about whether to be loyal to his friend or be honest with the detective. Again, this is another pretty strong indication that Taylor may not be telling the whole truth. The question is, why would he risk himself just to try and protect Nick, given that the crime here is something so serious?
He just told me he's going. He's going to might take the car. He went
Did you say
there.
we were going to go with the car?
No, he did not. He said he's going to. And next thing I knew it, woke up. And he said fell asleep or whatever. So he said fell asleep in his car. And then he walked back, I guess. But I don't know which one he did.
Okay.
And that's.
Okay. I'm going to let you think a little bit and I'm going to come back in and talk to you, okay? You know your name?
Once alone, Taylor looks rather uneasy and is likely rattled by this situation. We now hear firsthand what Nick claims to have occurred the previous night.
And then at around 1:30, stupid me, I went back to my house to try to get the car.
Nick says stupid me to make it clear that he knew it was a bad idea and to appear to the officer like he's a good kid.
And they announced the keys were, where my parents were, the lights were on in the house.
Notice how Nick taps the table while talking in an attempt to emphasize his points. However, these taps appear mistimed rather than aligned with his statements.
And they announced the keys were, where my parents were, the lights were on in the house.
Typically, these sort of illustrators will line up with a person's statements when they're being truthful. But Nick's are all off, and at times he isn't even hitting the table. This is also known as incongruent body language, or when someone's words and body language don't match. According to the body language panel, these are known as misplaced or mistimed illustrators and can be a cue of deception.
And so I didn't want to take the car out, because the lights were on, it's a word. And so I went in the car and started yelling, go to bed in a half hour, and the lights will be off. So I was sitting there, and I fall asleep. Then I get a call from Alex around, I think 5 in the morning.
Okay.
And then he wakes me up, and then I slept in the car, and the lights are still on in the house.
Okay.
And it doesn't make sense now, but
So what did you do that?
I walked back in, just like, it's 5 in the morning.
Okay. So did you ever get inside the keys at all, or?
No, I was on the car, but never inside the house.
Okay.
His casual demeanor is somewhat unusual given he's just found his entire family murdered. However, it's possible that he's currently experiencing feelings of denial and hasn't fully let the truth sink in, which could somewhat explain why he appears to be acting normally. Nick speaks in a much more mature manner compared to his three friends, who definitely sound more like kids.
Did you walk back to Ryan's house?
That and I got
How far is it?
It's a hike. It's probably like 20-minute walk. So.
Okay.
Alex now gives his account of the sleeping situation at Ryan's house, which is a bit different than what the other boys had to say. Watch his story begin to evolve as he fills in some of the missing pieces of the puzzle.
So you and Nick slept in the living room?
Yes.
You're 100% sure? You need to be perfectly honest with me. That Nick was in there with you?
Yes.
The whole night?
Yes.
Alex denies that Nick left the house that night. The detective already knows this is untrue. Alex may feel like he has to protect his friend by saying that Nick was sleeping in the living room the whole night. At that age, one's peer relationships may be the most important thing. Friends' opinions and thoughts are often held in higher esteem than that of one's own family.
Okay. I'm having 2 people tell me he left the house. This is a murder investigation. 4 people have been murdered tonight. You don't want to start lying to me right now. I will drag you down with this if you start lying with me. You need to tell me 100% truth. I already know he's left the house. I already know why he left the house.
Yes, he left.
He immediately changes his story and appears to now tell the truth. The boys may have decided together to lie about Nick leaving the house prior to being brought into the station to protect their friend. Saying that he left the house would obviously make him look guilty.
Tell me what happened.
Well, Nick was leaving the house because he was going to take his car out.
So when did he tell you that he was going to go over there?
He said he was going to leave at 12:45.
What were you guys going to do? Drive around?
Yeah, just drive around.
Yeah, anybody go visit girls or anything like that?
No, they were just going to drive around.
Okay. What happened after that?
Well, I fell asleep around 1.
Okay.
And then,
You stayed in that living room?
yes, and then I woke up around 5, and I called Nick to see where he was, because he said he was going to come back and wake me up when he had the car, but he never called, so I called him. He said he was walking back to Ryan's, and he was lost, and I told him how to get him. And he said he was going to go in the house and get the keys, then he fell asleep in the car. I understand. He said for about 3 hours, I guess.
It's hard to tell if any of these boys suspected something, or maybe even knew more. Alex's behavior here is similar to Taylor's, except that he seems to lie more overtly about the living room situation. Back in Ryan's interrogation room, the detective receives the same story provided by Taylor and Alex.
Tell me what happened. What you
We went upstairs. We ate breakfast or lunch. Lunch. And then Nick went upstairs to take a shower.
And then
When Mr. Pat came, Alex drove us back to Nick's house because we were gonna go there for the night. And he went inside. I don't know, like when we were waiting, he was worried because
Sure.
Nick, because he said he was calling him like all morning. He started calling him at like 11, and he was like worried. He kept on calling like all the phones, leaving messages, and no one picked up. He was like getting worried, and
Taylor reaches down as he's speaking and grabs his water bottle, which is a sign of his nervousness. He also repeats a few times about how Nick was getting worried. He seems to want to emphasize Nick's concern about his parents.
because he said that his mom was gonna pick him up at like 9 to like clean the house, 9 in the morning, and she never did, I guess. And he was calling, and I don't know, I guess he was just sitting there out somewhere.
And then in the course of this, I've been calling my parents all day and they hadn't picked up, so.
from the cell phone?
So originally from Ryan's house phone and then my phone a bunch of times.
Okay.
There is a very specific reason why the officer asks about Nick placing calls to his parents and brothers, to compare his statements regarding his calls with phone records. If the police get these records and they're inconsistent with his story, they can do two things. 1, convince a jury that he's not telling the truth, and 2, convince Nick to confess because his story doesn't make sense.
Any idea what happened?
The detective wants Ryan to explain exactly what occurred earlier that afternoon, leading up to the horrendous discovery of Nick's slain family.
Me, Taylor, Nick, and Alex were at the mall. We came home. Mr. Pat drove us to Nick's house because we were going to be there tonight because they were all at my house last night. And when we got there, Nick was already worried because Nick's parents always like call him and stuff and check in, and they hadn't since he hasn't talked to him since like 6 yesterday.
Okay.
And he's getting all worried. So like when we got back there, he was just all sketched out about stuff.
He's holding his hands in front of his body as he describes what happened, which could be a self-soothing position. This is likely the first time he's been in a police interview room, so it's understandable that he may be feeling anxious. They begin to discuss the four boys' arrival at Nick's house earlier that afternoon, after their trip to the local mall.
So you guys get to back home. What happened then?
Then I opened the garage door. I walk
How
inside.
did you open the garage door? How do you do that?
That's the code.
Is there? Oh, okay. For the outdoor code, right? Garage door opens or something. Okay.
And so I walked inside, and then the door was unlocked, which is weird because my parents locked the door.
Which door? The door in the
Door into the garage.
kitchen.
Into the kitchen.
Okay, from the garage to the
That
kitchen.
was locked, so I figured it would be locked, but it wasn't. So I walked in,
Okay.
and I saw my father on the couch, and that's sort of okay.
What did you see about that? I know stop, but what did you see?
I saw he was on the couch, and there's blood on his face.
It's notable that Nick doesn't seem the least bit upset or emotional while discussing finding his entire family murdered, or when he saw blood on his father's face. This would have been an extremely traumatic event for him, so it's surprising that he doesn't appear to show any signs of trauma. He hasn't cried, expressed shock, or even been at a loss for words. He does lower his voice and mumble a little, but this change in volume and speech may be out of fear and not wanting to discuss the crime. It's possible that he's keeping his emotions inside or putting on a brave face. We don't know his typical behavior, so keeping his emotions inside may be normal for him.
Okay, what did you do after that?
Then we talked to Mr. Smith, and he came in the house. And he called 911, and I went upstairs with the rest of my mother and my two brothers. I saw them.
We don't know Nick's diagnosis, but this lack of emotion, despite talking about his entire family being dead, is typical of individuals with antisocial personality disorder. Please note that the people involved in this case have not been formally diagnosed with any mental illness, and the psychological analysis is not based upon a formal assessment.
We discovered his dad on the couch, like bloody, his face was really pale. And then we got Mr. Pat, who was about to drive away. He came in and then he pushed us away from like the dad. So Nick went upstairs, found his mom in the master bedroom and his two brothers in their bedroom, like all bloody. And I was up there too with them. And Alex was down the hall, and I just took Nick and just brought him outside.
Okay.
Alex gives his take on the disturbing discovery of Nick's deceased father.
I just stayed right by the stairs when you walk in. I didn't want to see anything. And Nick just said he saw blood on him. And then right as my dad was pulling off, I stopped and
Did you see his dad or anything?
Yeah, I saw him on the couch. So I ran outside and got Mr. Smith.
Okay.
And he came in, he's like yelling. He's like, John, are you okay? And so I gave Mr. Pat the home phone, and he called 911. And Nick went upstairs and looked in his brother's and mom's room, and they had like blood on them.
You said Nick ran upstairs? Is that what you said?
Nick went upstairs.
Nick went upstairs.
Yeah, he wanted to see where everyone was. So we all went outside, and Mr. Pat was on the phone.
When you went outside, where'd you go?
We stood behind Mr. Pat's truck.
Did you guys go to the back of the house at all?
Yes. We all ran around back.
What did you see back there?
We were gonna see if there's any signs down there. So he opened the door and he saw the Xbox and
Who's he? I'm sorry.
Nick.
Okay.
He saw the Xbox and the Wii like on top of each other on the pool table.
The Xbox being left behind makes a robbery much less likely, as that's something a burglar would likely take, especially if it was sitting out so visibly. Burglars also rarely kill their victims and will more often than not leave if they discover the house is occupied. Alex clears up details about Nick's outing in the very early morning hours that day. His account is about to further incriminate his friend Nick.
As far as you know, did Nick ever, did he tell you he had driven around at all last night?
nah, he said he didn't know.
Okay.
But then today at the mall, he said he couldn't get the keys, and he pulls the car keys out of his jacket, and he said he said they were just in there. He didn't even know.
In his pocket.
Yeah, in his jacket pocket.
Nick had alleged that he never got the keys or entered the house, which is now contradicted by Alex.
Is there anybody else in your family?
No.
Okay. How about grandfather or grandmother? Your grandfather lives
In the deep creek.
Does he live there or is he just there for the
He
weekend?
lives there full time. My grandmother lives in Elkins.
How old is he? Your granddad?
73.
Because I want him to come. If I asked him to come here for you, would you do that? Would he?
Well, they come down. It just take about 3
I
hours.
understand. But when you come down.
Nick is laughing with the detective and seems almost lighthearted. Most people would certainly lack the ability to laugh so easily. However, people can process trauma differently, and it's impossible to know how Nick is truly feeling inside, as many individuals are very good at hiding their emotions.
All right, let me work on that real quick. And I'll come back and talk to him a little bit. Okay? You need anything else?
Before leaving the room, the officer asks Nick if he needs anything. This may not seem particularly important, but the officer is trying to build rapport with him. By getting him to believe that the officer is on his side, he will be more open when talking to him.
Some food would be nice.
Food is it. Check our restaurant here. It's all we eat junk food here. Is that okay?
It's fine.
How about some drink?
Soda would be great.
His request for food is surprising, as most people would lack an appetite after seeing what he witnessed hours before. Given the situation, this could indicate that he's emotionally disconnected. Nick is likely feeling more comfortable now. The detective has been friendly and joking with him. There's been no suggestion or hint that he may be a suspect. He may even feel that he can let his guard down. As it's becoming more clear that Nick is likely the prime suspect, Taylor sheds some light on Nick's home life. From the outside, it appears Nick has everything going for him. However, we learn things might not be as great as they seem, and Nick has been getting into trouble.
Did he say anything to you about anything? Has he had any issues with his parents lately?
Not that I know. I mean, I think he got in trouble like a couple once or twice because of drinking.
This is the first suggestion that there may have been some issues between Nick and his parents. Still, it's pretty common for teenagers to clash with their parents. However, this could be seen as a red flag, as teen drinking could be a sign of behavioral problems and issues in the household. At 15 years old, Nick is still in his early adolescent years, so drinking at this age could definitely be more of an indication of behavioral or mental health issues. In other words, it could be considered more concerning when a younger teen starts drinking, as it could also be an indication of conduct disorder, which is often a precursor to antisocial personality disorder. Conduct disorder is a behavioral and emotional disorder that can occur in children and teens, and usually includes a pattern of lying, rule-breaking, aggression, and destructive behavior.
Did you see a gun with Nick at all last night? Did he have a gun? Are you sure?
Not that I saw him. Not seen
Did
him.
you say or talk about a gun last night?
No.
Are you 100% positive?
Yes. Did not talk about it.
Have you touched a gun in the last 24 hours?
I touched the airsoft gun.
No, a real gun.
No.
Has Nick ever said anything about his parents abusing and mistreating him or anything like that?
No.
Taylor appears confident in his response when asked if Nick ever mentioned being abused by his parents.
My partner ran out and gets food, so we got some time.
The detective comes back and acts very friendly, asking questions unrelated to the crime to rebuild rapport with Nick. He wants him to get comfortable talking with him because once a suspect begins talking, it's much easier for them to continue. It will also help him to let his guard down.
How do you like it there?
Good high school.
Yeah, good student or?
Yeah, just good.
Like what kind of good student? How's your golf team?
Good. Won counties and then lost regions, but yeah, good team.
You can see Nick smiling. His demeanor is extremely troubling and unusual for someone in his position. Nick is frequently touching his face, which can be a self-soothing behavior. Even though he appears to be chatting normally with the detective, it's apparent that he's not truly comfortable with the interview process.
Talk about your dad. What do you do for a living?
Lawyer.
What kind of lawyer?
Worked at Rent Towson.
The detective asks him about his father in a very casual manner to see how he responds and to gauge his feelings towards him. He's trying to see if Nick's response aligns with what his friends will say.
What firm? What was
Worked
it?
in Mullen Henry.
What do they do? What kind of law?
He's a business lawyer.
Oh, mom.
She had a property management sort of side business, more of a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, that's cool. Cool. You get along with them, okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Just trying to get to know.
It's seems like he wants to avoid discussing any issues he had with his father to remove a motive for him being the killer.
Got any enemies or anything? Enemies or problems or problems at work?
No, I don't think so.
The officer isn't asking these questions because he actually thinks enemies or problems at work caused the murders. Rather, the officer is once again trying to get Nick to let his guard down by making him believe that he isn't a suspect.
You ever talk about anything that's going on at work that...
Yeah, not in bad sense when we talk about work life, but nothing.
Did he have to travel at all, or is he...
Pretty much here. I mean, last time we traveled was actually probably with me down in South Carolina, which was a family matter. He's just not really traveling business much.
Okay. Oh, so he wasn't having to go to other businesses around the country?
Pretty much all local.
Okay. And Mom was there all the time?
Mm-hmm.
How about your brothers?
They both went to Coxton Middle School.
How old are they?
8th and 6th grade, 7th, 13, 11.
Okay. Is there anything else? He's not going to put you in anything, is he? Is he going to say that you had any involvement in anything?
No, I didn't.
He's not going to say he told you?
He did not tell me.
The detective knows Alex already lied to him once, so he needs to apply a little more pressure like he did with Taylor. It's noteworthy that the detective basically takes an identical approach with all the boys.
Are you 100% sure? I don't want this to come back and bite you.
I'm 100% sure.
Do you know anything else you should be telling me right now?
No.
I won't let you think about it long. Make sure.
Alright.
Because this could come back on you hard.
Yes.
The detective leaves Alex alone to let him digest the entire situation and to consider the seeds the detective planted about how serious this situation is. Alex appears to have taken what the detective said very seriously because he immediately offers up some important information when the detective returns after about 10 minutes alone.
But I do remember one thing to tell you. Nick told his little brother to keep the door unlocked for him to come in last night.
He may be worried about whether he could get into trouble, especially if he gets caught in another lie. It appears that he's now being honest and cooperative.
I remember Nick told his little brothers how he was going to get in to keep the basement door unlocked. That's how he was going to get in.
Did he call his little brother?
Yeah, he called him.
And that's how he's going to get in the house?
Yeah.
The basement door?
Yeah, the slider.
Like the pool table, is that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, that.
Oh, that's real important.
I should remember that.
That's cool. Thank you.
The detective returns to confront Taylor with one of his lies to further impart on him the fact that he needs to be totally truthful.
Do you remember at one point Nick calling his little brother?
Yeah, he calls brother.
What did he tell him? What did he say?
Tell me to pick up.
How about before that? Did he get a hold of his brother and say leave the back door open?
Yes. He did.
That's the stuff, man. You can't keep doing that to me. You gotta be 100% true with me. Alright?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think
I'll do that after.
Okay. At any point. What you think about it? This is the murder. 4 people have been murdered.
Yes.
2 of the boys, uncle and dad.
Yes.
There's nothing more serious than this right now. Okay. Think about it. I'll be back talking to you a little bit. Don't let you lie to me. You don't want that to happen to you.
I thought you were talking about after.
Okay. I understand, sir.
I'm sorry.
Taylor's claim that he misunderstood the questions may have been true, but either way, he appears to be even more nervous now. Again, the detective leaves him alone.
When you got home with Mr. Smith, right, we went upstairs, and you guys went outside apparently?
Right, went outside.
Where did you go?
Went out to the back, and then that door was unlocked.
It was unlocked?
It was unlocked, the basement side door.
Is that characteristically locked also, or do they always...
75, that's not, because that's sort of more like kids, basements. That's probably more or less just not locked as often.
I mean, if you had to make a guess how someone got in the house, how would you?
Probably that basement.
When did you see your parents last, or talk to your parents? When did you see your parents last, I should ask?
The day he dropped me off at Orange Neighbor's house.
So Greg was in the car with the parents when he dropped you off?
I was in the car, Ben stayed at the house.
Okay. You got dropped over at Ryan's house.
It's shocking how casually Nick is talking about his parents and brothers, given that he just found them dead.
Okay. Did you talk to him by the phone at all that night?
The plan was they were going to pick me up at 9 o'clock the next morning.
Okay. What was that? You guys had something to do, or?
Just clean the house, actually.
Okay. Did you talk to your brothers at all?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What time did you start calling the house?
First call, I think we called just because the kids were to come over tonight and we said we'll get together, and
Right.
I called it about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, this morning?
This morning, I found his house phone, and I called their cell, where I called all the numbers. Greg's cell, my mom's cell, dad's cell, or even our deep freak house.
It doesn't really make sense that he was apparently so worried about his family that he called multiple phone numbers to try to get a hold of them, even the home phone of one of their other houses. But he didn't just go down the road to see if they were at home. His friend's house was close to his own home, so he could have easily walked there to check on his family much earlier in the day.
Did they try to call you at all last night? Nothing that you missed or messaged or is there text on yours? Any text from them or whatever? Okay. So what time do you think you left Ryan's house to go back to the house to get the car? Do you have to guess?
1:30. I know it was o'clock. 1:30.
How long did it take you over there?
Not exactly sure. I got lost getting there. I'd probably guess around 3.
Nick claims he left Ryan's house at 1:30, which is about an hour later than what the other boys told the detective. He also states that he didn't get to his house until 3 a.m. He may be intentionally giving an erroneous timeline, so it doesn't line up with him being at the house when his family was killed.
I noticed we're being told there's a gun locker in the house.
In the basement.
What kind of guns your dad has?
2 pistol, a 40 caliber, 9mm, a little.
Do you know what kind they are? I mean, do you know guns at all?
Yeah, little Smith & Wesson, 2 brothers Smith & Wesson. One was a gift from our uncle, who is the pistol they use on the Boeing 747 things.
Okay.
It's one of those, and then 30-06 rifle, a couple shotguns.
You guys found it all, or just?
Guns, I found a couple times. More clay pigeons, we shoot those up at Deep Creek.
Okay. So the pistol was?
9mm, 40 caliber.
Is it something
38 special.
Is it a revolver? I mean, it's different. Is
It's
it?
a revolver. It's probably like a 2-inch barrel, and then there's this World War II old pistol.
Okay.
With this question and his answer, the police officer is establishing that, at the very least, he had enough knowledge of the gun locker that he could potentially use the guns inside it. This adds to the likelihood of him being the shooter.
I'm not sure what that takes.
I was told there's 2 lockers. Is that true?
Yes, there's the rifle case, and then there's the ammo / pistol case thing.
Okay. So it's 2 different cabins, I think it is?
Yes.
Okay. And I asked before, do we know where the keys are to the... But you don't have an extra set that you can get it to us to...
If I had to get maybe his dressers next to his bed right now.
But you don't have anything?
Not that I know.
Okay.
In his room alone, Taylor is showing signs of both stress and impatience by pacing and tapping his fingers on the table.
Anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, I think I remember like the times more.
Okay.
You were talking about like abusing, like he told me that his dad just sometimes say something. Like, I don't know, when he got caught or something or whatever. But his dad would like say something like a failure or something.
Okay, so degrading film and stuff.
Yeah.
How did Nick do in school?
I think he does pretty well. He takes some like AP classes, mostly GT, I think.
Nick was likely smart and a good student if he had AP classes. Drinking is a behavior that doesn't typically align with the profile of a good student, but oftentimes high-achieving students can put excess pressure on themselves to perform and thus seek out ways to cope with the emotional stress that results from that excess pressure. Sometimes these types of students have parents who set excessively high expectations for their academic achievement.
Has he talked about anything about with his parents?
Nah, he didn't say anything.
Did he talk about having issues with his dad or anything?
Nah, he said his dad like really like hard on him though.
Alex also hints at a troubled relationship between Nick and his dad. However, this may be true in a number of families with teenagers.
What kind of guy is Nick?
He's a nice guy.
Is he obsessed with guns or anything? Does he like guns?
Yeah, he has a lot of airsoft guns.
How about real guns? Do you know if he ever go shooting with his dad or anything?
No, I don't think he has I don't know.
Did he talk about a gun last night at all?
No.
A real gun?
No, he didn't know.
Have you ever seen him carrying a real gun?
No.
You said you had a good relationship with your dad. Was he hard on you at all or anything like that?
Like my spot. I mean, yeah, we've had our issues, but
Your friends ratted you out when they said you got caught drinking?
yeah.
By saying that his friends ratted him out, the detective may be trying to do two things here. First, show Nick that it's okay to admit mistakes he's made in the past, in the hopes that he may admit to other mistakes he's made in the past. And second, implicitly indicate to him that his friends have information about his past mistakes that they are willing to share with the police.
What happened there?
There was actually twice. One time I got caught at a friend's house, and then there was a ski trip. This is actually about a month ago.
Yeah.
Ski trip up to Vermont, and I stupidly brought some stuff, and they found it, and
Your parents were on a ski trip with you?
No, they found it in my bag before that.
Okay.
He reveals that he had been in trouble recently, but acts as though the relationship with his parents is pretty good. Still, this indicates that Nick seems to have a pattern of disobeying the rules. It's possible that he may have had addictive tendencies if he's bringing alcohol to take with him on a trip. But of course, to an extent, teen drinking can be considered somewhat typical of the age, since adolescents do experiment with alcohol, often well before they're of legal drinking age.
Brian or someone told me that you called home and talked to Greg at one point last night.
Called him around. I think I called him to walk around, spend late, or spend down.
Did you talk to your brothers at all?
No.
Overnight? Okay.
9, 10.
Okay. What did you tell them?
Told him, don't leave the back door unlocked.
Why'd you tell them to do that?
I was gonna go into the house, grab the keys.
I'm not trying to hit on you for driving a car. It's just...
I'm stupid.
At this point, the officer has yet to become accusatory towards Nick and continues attempting to convince him that he isn't a suspect. Leaving the back door open could possibly prove premeditation. The detective should have gotten more clarity as to why he made this request of his brother.
Still can't think of anybody would want to do this to your parents. How about away from work? Any issues, neighbors, or...
There's Bobby, something in the front of it. This is just really shot in the dark. He's had some cops from the house before. He's sort of the neighborhood goof. Yeah, I guess you call him. I mean, that's...
Why are the police coming to the house?
I really don't know myself. I mean, I've heard drugs, but, the rumor mill starts, It's
On Howard Avenue?
Howard Avenue. It's sort of the most decrepit looking house.
Nick may be trying to point the detectives in another direction by mentioning the neighbor, who has apparently been in trouble with the police before. He may be feeling somewhat concerned since the detective was questioning him more closely, so he wanted to put suspicion on someone else instead. Additionally, naming someone else could indicate that Nick truly doesn't believe he's a suspect at this point.
Alright, I'm going to end here.
Okay.
The detective returns and asks a broad, open-ended question to see what Alex may have remembered while sitting alone for an hour.
Anything else you think you need to tell me?
I don't know. He always says his brothers are annoying and stuff, and he says his mom drinks a lot.
Does she?
It can be a red flag when there's a parent in the home that might be abusing alcohol. There's an impact on the whole family system when there's a parent who abuses alcohol, including the other parent, Nick's father, who may feel he has to compensate for the mother's absence. If this is true, and it's not been confirmed to be, this could create stress on the family as a whole.
Okay, how about the father?
I don't know. He just says he's really hard on him.
Yeah.
And I guess he calls him Hitler.
Calls her Hitler?
Yes. Because he's really hard on him.
Okay. And you're sure you didn't let on what was going on last night?
No, he said nothing.
Okay. Alright. Anything else? You gotta tell me before we get out of here. Because this is it. I don't know. We're gonna start talking to Nick now. Like I told you before, I don't want him to come back and say, I told them this or I told them that. Because that puts things in different. Up to now, you've been perfectly honest with me. I just don't want something coming back on you guys when you've been trying to.
That's all I have.
Alright then, we're gonna get you out of here then.
Okay.
Get your ride, you, Taylor, and your dad, and Ryan too. Okay, get you going.
Alex, Ryan, and Taylor are all allowed to leave the police station and go home, while Nick remains alone to continue answering questions. Get ready, because this is where the case really goes off the rails.
Alright, I'm gonna check see if there's some food here for you.
Where are my friends, by the way? Do they go home or
Parents down. We have to have the parents come get them. Okay, so you're it?
Yep.
Alright, let me check.
From Nick's perspective, he likely doesn't think that the police would provide a meal to a murder suspect, and this puts him further at ease. However, this is actually a common tactic when interrogating someone. People are more likely to open up when they're at ease, and people are more at ease when they're fed.
Fix up a little bit, okay?
Thank you.
Anything else? Need a head or anything?
The detective leaves him alone to eat the food he requested. After everything that's happened to his parents and brothers, Nick is able to eat a burger and fries. After he's done eating, Nick moves to a different chair and lays down with his feet up. This shows he feels at ease and relaxed, which is abnormal. It also shows a disrespect for authority. Most 15-year-olds would be afraid to put their feet up and lounge back like that in a police station. He's acting like this is his living room. This could be an indication that he completely does not care about the serious events unfolding all around him. This could also be an indication of a sense of entitlement. Again, this shows a complete lack of concern for what has happened to his family hours ago. Nick has been left alone in the room for over 25 minutes.
Hey, Nick, this is my partner.
Hi, nice to meet you.
The officer re-enters the room and introduces his partner, another police officer.
I've been a cop a long time. You're in homicide. Been here a while. Stuff's just not adding up for me right now. With you, okay?
This is the first time that the officer has become accusatory towards Nick, and his intricately woven story is just about to fall to pieces.
Tell me why your dad was so pissed at you yesterday. All your friends are saying that your father was uncharacteristically disluted with you yesterday.
The detective may be lying to him about his friend saying his dad was mad at him yesterday, as that was not mentioned in any of the 3 interrogations. The detective likely wants Nick to believe that his friends turned on him, so that he will feel he has no choice but to admit the truth.
Well, I mean, asked he what he wants to see the parents around, you know. But anyway,
What now?
yes, when he dropped me off Fingal's house, he went to the door and made sure the parents were around.
Okay. But everybody's saying that he was ticked off. What was he mad about?
It wasn't like that.
Is there a reason they would say that?
What?
Is there a reason that they would say something like that?
He's never really nice though, I don't think.
That's not, they said it was uncharacteristic for him, that usually when he does see them, he's always pleasant. That's why this particular moment stood out to them.
I mean, they didn't see him. There was one person, Brian Fingal saw them, so I'm not sure what they're basing their experience.
I'm just telling you what they're saying.
They didn't see him except for
Okay. So you're saying he wasn't upset?
yeah. And even if he was, they wouldn't have seen him. You know, it all would have come through me. What they so.
But Nick, things aren't ending up here. I don't understand some things that happened here tonight. I think you had something to do with what happened tonight.
If he were innocent, you might expect him to immediately and strongly deny killing his family, but he's silent. His mind is likely racing, as he may have thought he got away with it since the detective was so personable, and the interview was very non-threatening in the beginning.
I think that you killed your family. And the thing is, the more you lie, the deeper it gets.
The implication is that if he were to come clean, he could receive lesser punishment, and that if he lies, his punishment will be worse. Nick has already waived his right to remain silent and hasn't since invoked that right.
There's got to be a reason why you did this.
The officers say, we need to know why, but legally speaking, they actually don't. Although a motive may help a grieving family receive closure, proving a motive isn't actually legally required to prove murder. You just have to prove that the suspect killed a person and had the intent to kill that person. While it's true that judges can't use a criminal's honesty in determining an appropriate punishment, punishment for first-degree murder can only be so lenient. So the officer's statement isn't entirely accurate. Even then, it's actually not illegal for a police officer to lie about the effects of confessing, so long as the suspect has waived his rights.
This is your family. We need to know what happened here. Look at this. There are happier times.
The other detective holds up what is assumed to be a family picture, likely trying to appeal to Nick's emotions.
Nobody broke into the house last night. It had to be you. Nobody else did this. You know where we found the keys for the gun locker? You tell Nate, you know where they are.
We searched the house.
Yeah, you do. They're under your mattress. In your room.
The police may not even have this evidence at all. It's a common tactic for police officers to tell a suspect that they have some sort of smoking gun evidence, even when they don't, to get the suspect to believe that confessing is their only way out of this situation.
On the right side of the bed. You put them there.
Nobody broke into this house. You went in that house. You called and had your brother leave the door open.
The officers recall that Nick called Greg and had him leave the door open. Because the first officer allowed him to tell his own version of events earlier, he now has something to convince him that lying is of no use.
There's no other explanation.
Yes, you did.
And the more you lie, the deeper it's going to get for you. You're 15 years old. You really do still have a life ahead of you. But the more you lie, the deeper it gets for you.
I mean, do you want people to look at you as a cold-blooded killer? Or somebody that just made a mistake?
The second officer utilizes a classic technique of the Reed method of interrogation, asking Nick if he is a cold-blooded killer. With this technique, an officer suggests two alternative reasons why the suspect committed the crime, with one of the responses being somewhat more socially acceptable. Even if he admits to the more socially acceptable option, he would nonetheless be confessing.
Nobody else did it.
Okay.
Tell me how the keys got under your mattress. Nobody broke into your house. They killed your family.
The only gun missing is a 9mm. Why? Was it your father?
I killed him.
You did. You killed your family.
His denials are in a soft whisper. For the first time, he looks like the child that he really is. Throughout the interrogation, Nick is presented as a young man with a level of maturity that is way beyond his years. But here, he looks like a scared child.
Why did you call your father Adolf Hitler?
He's straight. I mean, that's their whole, it's just a joke. My mom's called him Hitler's Force.
How else could this happen, other than you? It was. And saying no, it wasn't, isn't going to make it go away. Right now, you're a man. You got to mess up to this.
I couldn't.
You did do it. As we speak, we're developing more and more evidence that you did this. There's no other explanation for what. There's no other explanation for what we're finding, other than that you did it.
What evidence that I did it?
You'll see. You'll see.
Yes, you did.
You lied to us. You lied to us about contacting your brother. You lied to us about the keys.
I never lied about it. That's my brother. I told you that.
He only told me after I pointed it out to you that you did it.
I didn't.
And the keys to the gun locker are in your bed, or under your bed. There's no other explanation. Nobody broke into this house. It was you. You left your friends. What happened? Why? Explain to us why this would have
There's
happened.
no reason for me to kill my brother. They provided everything I wanted.
But they were stripped.
The detectives mention a possible motive that Nick's parents were strict, which he brought up himself throughout the interrogation. The detective is using this information to see if he will downplay the issues he has with his father to avoid appearing like he has a motive. Nick is more mature for his age, so it's likely that being controlled by his parents was a significant source of stress for him. Plus, if he does have antisocial personality disorder, then there's even more reason for him to have an intense resentment towards his parents for being strict and controlling him. People with APD are extremely self-centered and self-serving. They typically like to manipulate and control other people. They certainly don't respond kindly to anyone who tries to control them. So much so that people with APD don't even respect people in authority positions, like police officers or judges. They see themselves as superior to everyone because of their grandiosity and inflated self-image.
So they were straight. I was to kill somebody.
We talk to people every day who love their wives, love their children, love their babies, love their friends, and they sit right where you're sitting. They love them too. But things happen, we're human beings. Things upset people. And this is one of the ways that they act out.
The second officer is once again attempting to use the Reed technique by saying things happen, we're human beings. The officer is trying to empathize with him and maybe trying to normalize the killings by making murder sound so normal and that other people do the same thing. It makes it easier for Nick to confess.
And it was probably something that it happened just like that. It happens that fast.
Help us explain it.
And somebody
Help us be able to explain to the family what happened here.
convince me you didn't do it.
But if I did it, why would I leave the key? If I planned, I killed my family, why would I leave the keys underneath my mattress?
Because that's where you put them.
I never thought we'd find them.
You didn't know we were going to go search. We're turning your house upside down. We're finding things. Cell phones, all kinds of stuff. It's not the end of the world, but if you're going to sit here and lie, it's going to be problems. Listen, again, people sit in that chair every day and say the same things that you're saying. And believe me, when they're done, they feel much better. We wouldn't be sitting here talking to you like we are if we didn't think you did it. I know your friends didn't do it. I know nobody broke into that house last night.
The back doors open.
Still, it's breaking in. Nobody did that. Your parents were supposed to come get you at 9 o'clock this morning. You don't bother going home to check on them all day. You knew you were supposed to go home and clean the house. Instead, you go to the mall.
You knew you didn't have to.
Not to what?
Go home.
I was in my room. I knew how to clean the house. So I didn't want to do that. So I called them, left messages, and they couldn't be mad at me.
Why didn't you just walk in?
So didn't look in the house.
Doesn't make sense.
Why not?
Because your parents are strict.
Right?
You know what you were supposed to do.
And yeah, my parents, but I still make mistakes.
That's not a mistake.
No, not the. I mean, they're strict, but they're not that. For example, so 3 weekends ago, the alcohol that I told you about, I wasn't grounded for that. Obviously, I wasn't. I was at a friend's house 2 weekends later. I mean, they can be strict, but they're not.
And why did it happen? You did. And we know you did.
You've been doing this a long time now.
What?
And the police are still at your house. Everything points to you. Everything.
What?
Points to you.
The only thing you charge the keys. I don't know that.
Listen,
If
somebody breaks into a house, okay, they're not going to go in the bedroom and throw keys under the mattress.
No, I'm not saying that. The pistol was out.
You put the key there.
Where was the gun?
Where was the gun then?
It was in the workroom. It was right over cleaning the gun.
Where's the
Which
gun
gun?
now?
Where's the gun now? That's another issue. There's a gun out there. Someone else could get hurt by this gun and it's gonna fall on you. There's gotta be a reason why you did this.
There's no reason. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Look at that family. At one point there was good times.
They're still good. I love them.
They're dead.
He mentions a few times that he loves his family. It's possible, if Nick does have antisocial personality disorder, that he made this decision based purely on his desire to satisfy his own immediate needs. Maybe he wanted freedom and wanted to be an independent adult so badly that he decided he would eliminate what was in his way. If Nick has antisocial personality disorder, then he would not react to this interference from his parents like a normal teen would. A typical teen would argue, rebel, sneak out, maybe defy their parents, but eventually they would succumb to their parents' demands. However, if he has APD, this means he's impulsive and vindictive. Rather than arguing, rebelling, or defying his parents, he would find a way to retaliate.
Your brothers didn't do it. A burglar didn't do it.
How can you say that?
I can tell, buddy, this is what I do for a living. I've been doing it for 22 years. You know how many burglaries I've been to? You know how many homicides I've been to? I sit here every day talking to people just like you. I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And this just goes on and on and on. And you did do it. If you didn't do it, you wouldn't be sitting here. I'm telling you right now. Nobody broke into that house.
How can you be so sure?
I'm positive. I'm 100% positive that nobody broke into that house. I've been to plenty of burglaries. I know what a burglar looks like. When you walk into a home and the house has been burglarized. Your house wasn't burglarized.
So there's no burglar.
Nobody broke in. Nobody went in there and killed your family. You did it. And you had a reason to do it. Yeah, you did.
What's my reason?
Your father was pissed at you last night. Maybe he didn't like your lifestyle. I don't know.
How can I not like my lifestyle? I go to my summer house for 2 weekends. I get whatever I want. I get it. I mean,
people do it every day. Why do people walk into schools and shoot all their friends?
because they're picked on. They don't enjoy it. I enjoy my life a lot.
Okay. Again, I know people that love their children, they kill their children. People love their babies, but they kill their babies. People kill other human beings. This isn't an armed robbery. This wasn't a burglary.
By your whole family being dead, you make out the most. I'm sure your father was well insured. Your mom was well insured. Now everything's yours. So you coldly killed your parents? And there's got to be another reason why you did this other than insurance money. That's the way you're gonna be looked at. 15-year-old killed his family for money.
I didn't kill my family.
Yeah, you did. We're gonna do this all night, man. It wasn't anybody else but you. Yeah, you did. I'm telling you, you did.
Everything about it, the way you act, you're acting as if you're a guilty man. We've interviewed hundreds of people in these rooms. Hundreds of people. And they all fit your mold.
What is that mold?
The more you lie, the deeper it gets. The fact about the keys.
I mean, do you really want me to believe that someone broke into your house, found the keys to the gun locker, which you said you didn't know where they were, opened the gun locker?
I really don't.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
Let me finish.
Nick carefully tries to refute the detective's claim that he had the keys to the gun safe under his mattress. He's not challenging the detectives in any way, and he even says, "I'm sorry," when he barely interrupted one of the detectives. Again, his mature demeanor is gone.
We took your dad's gun off his workbench and methodically went through the house and killed everybody in the house, then walked into your bedroom and stuck the keys under your mattress.
There's multiple sets of keys.
What are they doing under your mattress? Do you want me to believe that somebody did that?
Alright.
Do you believe
I
that?
didn't put them under a mattress. That makes no sense. Like,
They're there.
there's multiple sets of keys.
The keys are under your mattress.
There's one set of keys.
The keys are under your mattress. Do you want me to believe that someone walked into that house, kills your entire family, and then just happens to put the keys under your
The gun
mattress?
was out. I didn't need the keys.
Okay, I'm telling you. Do you want me to believe that?
But it wouldn't make any sense for me to even touch the keys.
Do you want me to believe that?
But that's not even, the keys aren't, for this to happen or whatever, it wasn't even necessary to
Okay, but the keys are under your mattress. If your parents didn't want you to have the keys, would they hide them under your mattress? I don't think so. Do you want me to believe that someone broke in, kills your entire family, shoots 2 small children, and then decides they're going to put the keys under your mattress? It doesn't make sense, does it? Do you want me to believe that someone would break into a house and not take anything? Doesn't make sense, does it? There's a reason that you break into a house. And it's to take valuables. And it's fairly obvious from where your father's found, your mother, and your 2 brothers. Nobody confronted the burglar and said, "Get out of my house," and they got shot for that reason. Your family members were executed. And you did it. Yes, you did. No doubt in my mind.
There won't be a doubt in the jury's mind either. The only question is why. The That's the only question I'm gonna have. It's up to you to explain.
There's a reason for everything. I mean, something triggered this.
We've heard a lot of stuff.
And that's understandable. And people understand that when you make an explanation. And as I told you earlier, people do this every day. And again, they love their babies, they love their children, they love their wives, husbands. But sometimes people snap. It happens. Something happened. It wasn't the burglar.
Help us understand.
Nothing made me snap.
I don't know, bud. I'll be back.
The detectives return about 10 minutes later.
Why are you telling us this big story about going to the keys when the keys are in the pocket of your jacket? The car keys.
Yeah.
You had them the whole time?
I realize that no more. That's my present time.
Again, an untruth. Why did you do this? You keep saying that.
Who did it? Who would do it? What kind of person would do this?
I don't know.
What part of what we're saying don't you understand? Is there anything?
I don't see how one set of keys to...
Why are they under your bed?
My parents, if they want me to, this is a burglar.
Come on.
Keys.
That's
Come on. You're gonna have to do better than that.
So what's the threat of it? If you take this to trial, I'm going to go to jail based on a set of keys?
It's interesting that he says, so I'm going to go to jail based on a set of keys. This is a smart statement given that Nick is only 15. It seems that he knows that the detectives need to have more evidence than just the set of keys in order to convict him.
No, it's not just a set of keys. There's a lot more than that.
What?
I'm not gonna sit here and tell
we
you.
don't do that.
I think I didn't do it. There's can't be other evidence.
You did do it.
I'm done.
Nobody else did this.
How can you be so certain?
Because I've been a cop for 22 years and my intuition's pretty good. I've been to plenty of homicide scenes. I've been to plenty of burglaries. This wasn't a burglary. You're being given a chance to explain things. It happened for a reason.
There's no reason.
You just did it? Yeah, you did. You did. No doubt in my mind. You did this. Who else would do it?
I don't know.
Drug murderers don't shoot children. They'll break into a house, shoot another drug dealer, but they won't shoot the kids.
If Nick committed this crime, he may have felt that if his parents and brothers were dead, there would be nothing standing in his way, and he could do whatever he wanted. He may have chosen to kill his brother so he wouldn't have to share any money belonging to their parents. Another possible motivation for killing his brothers may have been to eliminate any potential witnesses to the murders of their parents. Nick likely believed his plan was very well thought out and smart. He appears to believe that he could fool the police into believing that a stranger broke into the home, killed everyone, but took nothing of value. He displays several narcissistic tendencies, seeming to believe he's very smart and superior, even questioning how the police could be so sure it was him.
Only family will do that. Only another person in family will do that. We know that from experience.
What reason would I have to kill my brothers?
That's what we're trying to find out.
If I had some beef with my father, why?
Why do the rest of the family?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
There's a reason to.
Then why did you do it? Explain it to us.
The detective grows more confrontational and raises his voice when challenging Nick.
People are going to be searching for a reason why this happened. Look at your family.
I love them.
And you put a gun to their head and you killed them. There is no other explanation. Nobody broke into that house.
How do you know?
Nobody broke into that house.
How can you be certain?
We're 100% certain that nobody broke into that house.
Because we know.
But
We know. We're sitting here
you're
talking.
not God. You don't have cameras in my house.
I know that nobody broke into that house last night. Nobody.
There's an explanation to what happened. There's got to be. Other than this, you're a stone cold killer that killed his family.
It's also noteworthy to mention here that people with antisocial personality disorder and other personality disorders often dissociate, meaning that they disconnect from thoughts, memories, and feelings. This is often how these individuals are able to carry out horrific acts of violence. They have a way of emotionally detaching when committing the act, as well as afterwards. I get a sense that in the beginning of the interrogation, Nick is almost trying to convince himself that he didn't do it, or he would like to believe he didn't. There's something about the way he denies that seems like he just wants to make it all go away.
You're just lying. You're digging yourself deeper into a hole. You're 15 years old. You will spend the rest of your life in jail.
Yeah, you did.
And if I tell you a reason that'll somehow change my jail sentence?
No, it gives us something to tell your neighbors, your family,
But I didn't do it.
because everybody's looking for a reason. Well, the burglar didn't do it. You've done nothing but lie to your friends. I couldn't find the car keys. I couldn't get in the house. All the lights were on. You got the car keys in your jacket. You have no idea where the keys to the gun locker are, yet they're found under your mattress. You leave your friend's house. Yeah, I'm gonna go get the car. You don't come back until 6 o'clock in the morning. It was 30 degrees outside last night. You didn't sleep in your car. You didn't know what to do. That's the problem. That's why you were gone for so long.
Spend his hours concocting some silly story that the jury's gonna see right through.
Or maybe you didn't do that, but you didn't know what to do. I mean, you're claiming that you wake up and all the lights are on. But you know that something's wrong.
Why didn't you go in? You knew the back door was open.
So the lights were on. The lights in my parents' bedroom.
You said earlier that all of the lights were on. You fell asleep, you woke up, all of the lights were still on.
I said my parents' bedroom lights were on.
You said all the lights. You did.
The keys were, where my parents were, as the lights were on in the house.
This is the problem. You can't keep track of what you're saying, man. You can't keep track of what you're saying.
You can't keep track of it.
You asked me where my parents' bedroom was.
You haven't shed one tear for your family.
You were totally unemotional about this. You walk into a house, your whole family's murdered, and you're just, I didn't do it. Why would I do it? I was at my friend's house.
So crying would make you believe that?
I think you're trying to convince yourself. You're doing a terrible job of convincing me.
I have to convince you.
Yeah, you do. Believe it or not, you do.
You've already made your mind. I couldn't.
You did this. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Afraid it is. Okay. Well, you know what? You're under arrest.
Okay.
4 counts of first-degree murder.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Okay.
The detectives have tried several different tactics to get Nick to confess. First, they suggested that his friends had turned on him and told police his dad had been mad at him. Then they appealed to his emotions by showing him a family photo repeatedly. They pointed out all the lies he's already told. They also tried to see if he cared about his image, prompting him to give a reason for the killing so he wouldn't be labeled as a cold-hearted killer. However, none of this worked. Being arrested and handcuffed will likely scare Nick and make him realize the seriousness of his situation. Leaving him alone right after is strategic, as isolation may increase his stress and put the pressure on him to finally confess. While left alone handcuffed to the wall and table, Nick once again falls asleep. He's alone for around 40 minutes. The sound of the door wakes him up from sleeping. His ability to sleep in this situation is disturbing. The first detective returns to the room alone, likely posing as the good cop as he removes the handcuffs. Nick may be more likely to be honest with him because he may feel that he's on his side.
Nick, I'm just trying to help you out. I'm trying to figure out what happened here. I mean, this is a horrible tragedy. You know that. We know that all the lights off were in the house. All the lights were off. There were no lights on in the house when you went there.
The detective immediately confronts him with his lie about the lights being on in the house. He sits very close to him, invading his personal space to make him uncomfortable, and his tone is now a lot more aggressive than before. This is an interrogation technique from the Reed method, which is called positive confrontation. The detective confronts the suspect with evidence or contradictions from what they said earlier with a definitive tone, and aggressively explaining that they know based on evidence that the suspect lied.
See, all these little lies, all these untruths.
Alright. Maybe I talked wrong, but I mean, I know that light was on. Forget what I said, okay. I'm just like, that light, I know that was on. What do you want me to say?
I want to know why. I want to know why.
If there's a reason, I still go to jail.
Nick's response that even if there's a reason I still go to jail is very revealing, as an innocent person would not make such a statement. If there was any doubt in him being guilty, this statement certainly confirms that he did it.
I mean, but you understand, there are mitigating factors in the world. There's a cold-blooded killer, and there's a reason why people do things. And there are differences. There's differences in the way things are perceived, the way people hear things. Yeah, inevitably, it could determine the way you live out your life. Yeah. You can live it out as a cold-blooded killer who just killed 4 members of family, first-degree murder, or maybe there was a reason. However, whatever it might be, there may be a reason. He's still going to jail.
Here, the detective uses the Reed technique of mitigating circumstances or alternatives. He begins explaining that people do things for reasons, and sometimes those reasons impact the outcome for the suspect. This is said to try to make it easier for the suspect to confess and feel less judged. It will also make the suspect believe that maybe what they did is justified, or at least somewhat understandable. Even if the suspects lie about why they did what they did, the police still have a confession to the crime on record.
But why? You know, if there's an explanation, people want to hear this. People don't want to shut off a 15-year-old kid. They want to know why. Father was beating him or abusing, maybe not physically abusing him, degrading him. We know he was overly hard on you. We already know that.
The detective now uses the alternative step of the Reed technique more in depth. He's presenting 2 possibilities. One being that he's a cold-blooded killer, and the other that there is a reason he did it. He's hoping that Nick will latch on to the less morally reprehensible alternative, as it's less threatening for him to confess to. The detective will build up the contrast of the 2 until he agrees to the less evil alternative, which is an admission of guilt either way.
But you did, and that's just it. The jury's just gonna hear, I didn't do it though. You know, I'm not a hard ass. I'm just trying to find out what happened here.
And you give me the option of, you can feel better about yourself, still go to jail. Or, I didn't do it. So far as what you told me, I really honestly think you have the key. The key means nothing.
Oh, it means a lot.
To an experienced officer, maybe, but the jury.
So you're playing it on your mind right now. How am I going to beat this jury? I've got the jury beat. Not in Baltimore County, you don't.
You've given me the option of going to jail, feeling good to myself, 100%. Or,
how long are you going to go to jail for?
What?
Nick questions why an explanation would make a difference in jail time. It's unlikely that a truly innocent person would ask this. He's likely trying to feel out if whether it'd be better for him to continue to deny or whether to confess, but to try and give a convincing reason for why he did it.
The rest of your life? Or is there a mitigating factor of what happened here?
There's not.
Then why did you do it?
I didn't do it. But regardless, there's no mitigating factor.
It's clear that Nick is only concerned about himself and feels no moral responsibility in admitting what he did. The detective will need to play into that and make him see a benefit for himself in confessing. This self-serving mentality is very common among criminals.
See, that's the horrible thing about this then. All they're left with is you shooting 4 people. I can't go over it. I can't go over a piece of evidence. You'll see that in discovery months, maybe a year down the line, after you've been sitting in BCDC for that whole time, the detention center.
And if I gave a reason, I'd still be sitting in that same detention center.
I don't know. Is there a mental issue? Is there something going on here?
So then I commit myself to mental hospital for the rest of my life. Right?
I don't know. That's just it. I don't know. I don't know the reason. I can't guess. I can't fathom why this happened. But I'm sure there's a reason. Because I can't imagine in my world that someone killed their mother, father, and their 2 little brothers. But maybe there is a reason. It's not up to me to tell the jury the reason. I present the evidence as I have it. And it's in the jury's hand. And you're playing that, and I can see it in your head. You're trying to play it out in the jury. Get this by, I get this by. I don't know. I wish you could help me. I wish you could.
It's not saying that I didn't do it. It's saying that, yes, there was one set of keys underneath the bed that I didn't even need the keys to.
See, you're harping on one thing. That's just one thing that we're telling you.
Nick is arguing with the detective while still being careful and respectful. He's speaking hypothetically here because he's still sticking to his story that he didn't do it. His more mature demeanor has come back now. He's talking more. His tone of voice is a bit louder, maybe because he feels more comfortable with this detective than the other one. It's interesting how Nick has maintained his composure all along. He's not emotional or angry, but simply trying to present arguments, implying that the keys being under his mattress is not an indication that he killed his family. Given that he's only 15 years old, this type of thinking shows his intelligence and maturity.
Try to convince me then. Try to convince me you didn't do it then.
What? Like you said, there's no reason.
I don't understand.
There's
every reason to try to convince me.
No, I'm sorry, not to convince you. There's no reason for me to kill my family. They don't. Yes, they're strict on me. So what? They don't ground me when they find me with alcohol. Taking up to a trip. 2 weekends later. Last weekend, I took my friend up to Deep Creek and we skied the entire weekend. This weekend, I was at a friend's house. Yes, they're harsh, but they're not that harsh really. And they let me do what I want. There's no, no reason.
This wasn't a burglary. This wasn't someone breaking in the house.
How do you know?
I know. We know these things. I've been in this job for 19 years. Over 19 years now.
There's no reason for it. Why would I jeopardize? You put money into it. I have a very large, or had whatever, inheritance coming to me. Regardless if there's insurance money involved or not. I don't know how much insurance money I have. That is coming to me. He has real estate on the side. I am set pretty, I can build a life without that. There's no money reason. They're great to me. I love my family. We do,
He doesn't sound convincing at all when he states he loves his family. It appears the father could have been the motivating factor for the killing, and the other 3 family members may have just been killed because they were home and potential witnesses to the crime.
My vacation's planned. I love it. Wouldn't change anything in the world for it.
But nobody broke into the house. Nobody came in.
They did. Someone did, obviously.
Why do you think that?
They're dead.
His response is very telling. His entire family was killed, yet he's trying to convince the detective that it was a burglary. A true victim would simply try to assist and be cooperative to help find the killer.
What else do you think?
I came into the house, I saw my mom, her jewelry, whatever thing was tampered with. I mean, I've been in the house for all 10 minutes. I couldn't tell you what was missing, what was still there. My Xbox, my Wii was around. I mean, I just don't even know.
Then why didn't the people take that? The person that broke in the house, killed your family, why didn't they take anything?
Like, they killed them and they freaked out. I mean,
they were dead. Why wouldn't you take all that stuff? Apparently they had time to set it all up.
Well, I'm not that.
This is where we're getting at. That's not a burglar. That's a staged event. We don't do that. It's all staged. To make it look that way.
When the detective reveals he knows the house was staged as if a burglary occurred, Nick is silent and appears stunned. He looks unsure of what to say next.
You did. It was all staged. That's why we know. Every one of us has seen a real burglary.
I didn't even know something was staged. I didn't even know stuff was missing. I don't even know if stuff was missing or not.
You said that the Wii and the Xbox were on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't they removed?
They're big, they're not easy to carry.
Okay. How about the jewelry? There's tons of jewelry in your mom's stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what she has personally. You know, she has definitely valuables. I don't know if that's missing.
How about the cash on your mom's dresser? So they don't look full of cash. Obvious.
I think you probably get pretty freaked out once you kill somebody.
It's not how it works. It just doesn't work that way. Number one, burglars don't kill their victims. I have a feeling that the gun, the 9mm, could be the one that's missing from the house. The only gun missing from the house is going to be that gun.
Was it on a workshop bench?
There's no gun on the workshop bench. I'm telling you,
Something that is missing.
why would your dad leave a gun on the workshop bench?
Because he was clean.
He's not going to leave a gun on the workshop bench, is he?
Do you know my father? I think I know him probably better than you know. How can you say, you don't know him?
He would leave a gun out? Or the kids in the house?
Kids that know that we use guns and know to respect them, they're not going to touch them.
Where's this gun going to be found?
No. It's for you guys to find.
I like that.
What? That is.
I don't believe you. I'm looking in the eyes of a stone cold killer. There's no remorse.
The detective now confronts him with his lack of remorse and his behavior, which shows his guilt. The detective is trying to keep Nick's confidence low and to add more evidence to show him that they know he's guilty.
Only people that can lay here and sleep are the guilty. You haven't shed a tear. That's why I think there may not have been a reason. Maybe you are just a stone cold killer.
I didn't cry.
Did you show no emotion?
So much emotion. That condemns them.
Sun goes a long way.
Emotions, people play up their emotions, they play them down. You know,
Some things are uncontrollable.
It's inconceivable that anyone would be able to hold back emotions or act in this situation unless they were a psychopath and unable to feel normal human emotions.
But people who have set stories in their head act like this. People that have maybe almost convinced themselves they didn't do this.
The detective comes across as extremely confident when he says that guilty people act exactly like Nick is acting. He's trying to make him doubt himself so that he will give in and confess.
I know you don't believe it, but we see this every single day. I know the guilty by the way they act. Not even talking about the evidence. I'm just about the way you're acting tonight. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will see this.
what, you don't, there's no lesser punishment you're offering. You're saying, come up with a reason, and maybe you're insane and you get to go to a mental hospital the rest of your life.
I'm saying that there are explanations out there that can mitigate your life, what's going to happen to you. I don't know what your explanation is. There are reasons why people do things. There are heat of the moment, there are passion.
And so what if it was passion? Well, it's still the same outcome.
Nick shows his extreme narcissism when he focuses on the fact that he hasn't been offered a lesser sentence if he agrees to come up with a reason, which is why he hasn't done so. It doesn't even occur to him that confessing is the right thing to do out of remorse or guilt.
It may not be. I can't promise you anything.
Right, so what's wrong for me is if I admit to it, I say I did it, and they say, oh, but you know.
But why? But I'm looking for. I don't want you to say I did. I want to know why.
There's no why. I didn't do it, but they don't do anything.
And that makes it worse for us because there's no explanation. You're getting charged with this tonight. There's no doubts about this. But I'm hoping that there's a reason that we can explain to the court, to the state's attorney. Here's why he said he did it.
The detective goes back to the theme of justification and tells him once again they have enough to convict him already, so he will see a benefit in giving a reason of why he did it.
You know there are lesser charges, right? You know there's manslaughter. You're a smart kid. You know there's second-degree murder. You know all this. But I don't know why things happen. The only thing I have right now is 4 dead people. My only recourse right now is first-degree murder. If there's a mitigating factor, I would love to know this. Maybe that can affect the outcome in the rest of your life.
Repeatedly, Nick has stated, there is no mitigating factor. This statement will ultimately make his defense more difficult if he goes to trial. His defense team will want to put forth a reason for him killing his family, and his statements will make that reason that much harder for a jury to believe.
I'm not here to bullshit you. You may think that. That's fine.
It doesn't seem to say some reason doesn't seem to be very compelling, because I'm still going to jail regardless. But if I take it to court, and what if I win? Then
that's a heck of a gamble, isn't it? But the rest of your life is a heck of a gamble.
But as opposed to what? It's not
to a lesser amount of time.
A lesser amount of time, but if it's still 30 years, that's my life.
But what if it's not? What if it's a mitigating factor strong enough?
There's no mitigating factor though.
See, there is. So you're trying to play in your head. I know you. I know what you're doing here. I know, maybe not know you, but I know the type of person. Because I've seen the person here in the same exact seat before.
There's no mitigating factor.
Well, you want someone to come here and promise you, well, because I was mentally abused, that's why I did this. I'm only going to give you 5 years. That's what you want, right? That's what you want. But I can't give it to you right now. I can't say that. But I can certainly take what you tell me and give it to the right people. This is it. After this, there's no more me. There's no more mouthpiece for you right now. This ends when I leave.
Nick is likely feeling very uncomfortable at this point as the interrogation increases in intensity, as evidenced by him frequently rubbing his hand through his hair, which is a self-soothing behavior.
You're a good kid.
I'm reaching this. I'm trying to get there.
He's smiling and states he's trying to get there, meaning he's getting ready to confess. It's disturbing that he's smiling while he's considering confessing, and this shows a complete lack of remorse, empathy, or conscience. Nick may have psychopathy or some other serious personality disorder to display such inappropriate emotions.
I can tell you care. That's just it. I can tell you care. I can tell you feel what you did.
The detective now tells Nick he's a good kid and can tell he cares. This is not what he's actually been conveying at all, but the detective wants to make him feel comfortable confessing to him.
You see, this is the first time. The first genuine emotion I've seen all night is coming now. What happened? Nick, what happened?
A confession may be coming soon, as Nick has started nodding his head in agreement with the detective. Seeing this, the detective immediately scoots his chair in closer to put more pressure on him. It's part of the Reed technique to move closer to the suspect when they're about to confess, maintain eye contact, and act like they are an ally or confidant.
I can tell you didn't plan this. Just because you're a father?
Yeah, he was this role. Yeah.
But why?
The detective softens his voice and encourages him to explain what happened in a sympathetic tone. He's sitting only inches away to keep him talking.
Was it physical?
No, it's more sort of like a blast. Probably still. I mean, it wasn't. It was more physical. I'm in Boy Scouts, right? And excuse me.
It's okay, man.
So there's this I'm almost eagle, I'm almost done. You get life, right? Life Scout. And then there's this leadership weekend camp out, whatever thing, and
Where was it?
this Brownsy somewhere up in I forgot, but anyways, I didn't want to go. I'm almost done. Just came to leadership camp, so my attitude wasn't great on the trip.
You got pissed?
So he got pissed, and so we're coming home.
Here, we're getting a glimpse of Nick's father's authoritative and seemingly abusive parenting. This in no way justifies Nick's actions, but it does show that there may have been dysfunction in the home. If this is true, the physical and emotional abuse likely made Nick feel very powerless and could have made him so angry that he wanted to kill his father. However, it's unclear at this point why he would have also killed his mother and brothers. We don't have any information about whether the allegations of abuse were ever found to be true or not. Typically, the presence of antisocial personality disorder is what explains how a teen can engage in such a horrific act against their family members. An important point about APD is that according to the diagnostic criteria, the individual must be 18 years old to be given this diagnosis if the remaining criteria are met. This means that at 15, Nick could not be given this diagnosis.
Was he beating on you too, mentally, or?
That was mentally, and it was like, he got me 5 times, and that was the...
You're at Life Scout, you're at Life Scout, for God's sakes.
And so, that was sort of the beginning, the beginning of it, and it's just...
How long ago was that?
That was this fall. Last fall. And then,
Kept it up there.
The detective interjects with comments that show support and appear to take Nick's side as he tells him the things his father allegedly said and did to him. This is to encourage him to keep talking and makes him feel like the detective understands him, despite knowing that nothing his father said or did justifies his actions.
It kept going, and the little thing just seemed to always reverted back to that one thing, and then, the alcohol thing happened, then they called me to get out of the car.
Oh, you got a call before?
I called before.
He tried to keep it away from you?
Right. And,
The whole time your grades are good? Everything else is...
grades were good, and last freshman year, I got a D one quarter, but then I got an A the next quarter, so I got a D in it all. So not
But
great.
he's harping on the D.
Right, I on the D, and then he did occasionally hit. I wouldn't call it huge physical beating, but I think
He's still uncalled for.
right, the emotional, I think. The hit, when he hit, it didn't bother. It was the constant.
Did he do it in front of your friends too?
Never the hitting, but the yelling and the anger.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. And then for my birthday, which is couple days away, we were just take friends up to Deep Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And this last weekend, he was uptight as usual. And
Did he drink or anything? Or?
no, it was never really alcohol. It was he's overstressed, I think. He works. I mean, he gets up at 5 in the morning and comes home at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So then he sort of has Phil being nice to all his clients when he gets home.
takes it out, there almost not almost, but most everything.
Is he doing the same to your brothers? Or just you?
Maybe, but it didn't seem like that to me, but.
To your mother at all?
Yeah, but a little bit. But the bulk seemed to be generated towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday night, he was just mad. I don't even know why he was mad. And then I was giving directions how he was arriving at Ingle's house.
Mm-hmm.
And then he lost the clothes or something. It didn't hit me. He just gets really angry. And then we didn't get lost. He went 2 feet past the turn and just had to make a tight turn.
You come back.
And then you have to put the car in reverse. He got really angry. And then I went back to get the car. And I saw him sitting on the couch. The TV was on. And then the gun was out on the workshop bench.
Mm-hmm.
Nick covers his face almost the entire time he retells what he did, as though he's trying to hide from what he's revealing.
What happened?
I walked up. I sat there for a half hour.
He was sleeping?
Yeah, standing over him. And then I went between putting the gun up to his head and pulling it back down and up.
Did you have a pillow up too? Or?
Yeah, just the gun. The gun was... I'm not sure if I meant to pull the trigger or if it just went off. It just...
The way he explains the story, it doesn't sound as if he had planned to kill his father that night, but when he saw the gun sitting out and his father asleep, he saw an opportunity and took it. This may be the truth, or he may have gone over with the intention of killing them. Even if he decided while at the house, he could still be charged with first-degree murder. Premeditation doesn't have to mean pre-planning. Even a few minutes of thought prior to an action or a break in the attack after which the perpetrator continues attacking can be enough for the premeditation element of first-degree murder. His claim that he doesn't know if he meant to pull the trigger could be Nick's way of trying to distance himself from fully taking responsibility for what he did. It's also possible that he was partially telling the truth. He may have been wavering in his decision on whether or not to shoot him. The longer he held the gun in his hand, the more his confidence may have built up until he finally pulled the trigger.
And once that happened, I freaked out, but and I thought it would all come down, but I don't even know if they woke up or whatever, but so I sat on the couch and they're up and
In many ways, it's a greater indication of a total lack of empathy and poor moral conscience when a person has an opportunity to reconsider their actions, but they go through with the murder anyway. Even if Nick was out of it, as he said, or overcome with emotions in the moment, he still had moments in those 30 minutes where he must have realized the significance of his actions.
couldn't realize I couldn't just walk away from that. And then I shot my mom. And then
She's still sleeping?
yeah, I waited for a little bit, then she went back to sleep. I shot her.
His confession about shooting his mother while she was sleeping removes any kind of justification for the killing, as she wasn't even a witness to the father being killed. Both parents' murders were totally unprovoked, as they were sleeping when they were shot. Shooting someone allows the killer to not only be physically further from the victim, but also more emotionally detached from the killing.
Why the brothers, man?
I thought no one was there to say anything that my story would go, because I was the only one. Just got scared.
Nick's revelation that he killed his brother solely for self-serving purposes shows how truly cold-blooded he is, and how he is solely concerned about himself. He may have been angry with his father or frustrated with the rules or boundaries his parents set, so he thought if he eliminated them, his problems would go away. He may have believed that his life would be better on his own, but he likely didn't think about the long-term consequences of his actions. He could have been afraid that if his brothers were alive, they might point fingers at him or recall fights Nick had with his dad, which would give away his guilt. So he felt he had to kill everyone.
It just happened.
the only true emotion you're showing right now. Just gotta feel at least a little better. I need to know where the gun is, though. We can't have it out there.
It's on Shore Road. It's right on the map or whatever.
You may have to take us there.
Sure, it's fine.
Is it?
It's right. Maybe it's in the bushes.
You can point out to where it is.
Yeah.
The detective asks Nick to take him to where he ditched the murder weapon, which is the final step of the Reed technique. It's vitally important to back up the truthfulness of the confession with independent corroborating evidence, such as disclosing key facts of the crime which would only be known to the perpetrator. Turning over critical evidence like the murder weapon is extremely helpful in sealing a conviction.
This is what I mean. There's a reason. There's always a reason. You don't want the world to think that you did it for them.
How I missed it.
Did your brothers ever wake up? Were they awake? Do you remember where you shot your dad? I wasn't in there. On his body.
And the head.
The head? How about your mom?
The head.
Your brothers too, then? Why'd you do that?
I figured it'd be quicker, but, you know, just be instant.
Your friends didn't know about it?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you can add, do you think?
Is there anything you need?
No, that one about you. I mean, obviously you're sorry about this, right? And I can see it's the only time that I've seen emotion. I wasn't trying to treat you bad.
No.
I hope you can respect that I have a job to do.
No. It's all me.
Alright. You need something to drink? I'm just going to your handcuffs off. You'll be okay? Just hit the door right there, right outside if you need me.
It's hard to tell, but it looks like Nick breathes a sigh of relief once the detective walked out. The detective returns to clarify Nick's story with him, while other officers are checking the location where he said he left the murder weapon.
Just so I got it right. He's been harping on you pretty hard. Did it start prior to the scout stuff, or?
Well, I mean,
Has he always been tougher on you than the other boys, or?
I think so. Maybe that's biased. I mean, he's always definitely been straight since, back first grade, going to friends' houses was always a big one.
Right.
But, I guess maybe as I got closer to getting out of the house or something, I don't know, go to college, he tried to
Even more hard.
Right, something.
Nick appears to be expressing genuine emotion, although it's unclear if his tears are for himself or for his family. At this point, it appears that he's being truthful and cooperative with the detective. He's confessed to the shootings, and he also provided the location of the gun.
And,
What's that?
you said you just kind of stood there for a little bit before it all happened?
At least a half hour. I was just sitting there.
Sitting there sleeping.
Looking at it and raising the gun, throwing it back down, raising the gun. And this, I raised it more time. I don't know if I pulled the trigger, but I don't know if I was subconscious or I meant to do it or whether anything went off. It was loud ringing. And I sat down on the couch and waited for it all to come crashing down.
Waiting for your mom and the brothers to come down.
And I never did. And then I just remember walking up the stairs in my mom's room.
She's sleeping sound. Did you lean on the bed or what?
I walked up, shot twice.
Shot twice. And then you walked to your brother's room?
And then shot Greg. And then shot the bed.
When you come in there, is it?
I shot the left. just straight ahead. Shot walked to him, shot him, and then turned it down. I think I shot him twice. I'm not sure if it was once or twice.
What'd you do after that? What happened with the jewelry and the Xbox?
I opened up the jewelry case, threw some on the ground, and moved the Xbox to the location of the table. And then
Shot Julia through the back door? Or?
the back door. And it just going on the side of the road.
Did you notice any neighbors or turn lights on, or was anybody outside?
Nothing heard. I was so out of it, I wouldn't notice if someone was standing there looking at me. I don't know, there might have been somebody, but
We'll see stuff. Stuff will come out later. You'll see things.
so what happens now?
Well, we need to contact your grandpa. So we're just waiting. As soon as they know. What do you want us to tell your grandpa? Or your aunt?
I don't even know what I would say.
Okay. That's just, we have to take care of some of that stuff. Alright. Bathroom, I'm gonna be out in a couple minutes. Bathroom, water, candy, cookies,
Some soda or something like that.
Coke, Pepsi.
Whatever. Coke, great.
Why don't you go real quick?
Thank you.
The detective brings Nick a jumpsuit to change into and collects his clothing. The detective has continued to treat Nick kindly and with respect, despite the fact that he admitted to killing his entire family. Now that Nick has changed into a jumpsuit, it's likely that it's really sinking in what's about to happen. After the interview ended with Nick's confession, he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. What may come as a surprise to you is that soon after his trial began, Nick's family members, including his grandparents, aunts, and uncles, all began writing letters to the court asking for him to be given leniency. His maternal grandfather even backed up Nick's allegations that he was mentally and physically abused for most of his life. Regardless of whether or not these claims of abuse were true, as they've never been substantiated, Nick took a plea agreement in January 2009. He pleaded guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 4 life terms in prison. To this day, it's still under debate if Nick committed the murders in the spur of the moment as he claimed, or if he'd been planning them for a long time, as authorities believe. Either way, 2 of Nick's life terms will be served consecutively, which means that he will become eligible for parole in 2031 after serving 23 years. However, Nick's chances of receiving parole may be slim, because in Maryland, parole for a life sentence must be approved by the governor, and that hasn't happened since 1994.